Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. We are back with another Neurodiversity Stories. We have had a little bit of a break, guys, but we are back and we are absolutely excited. We have the most incredible show for you today, which you are going to be absolutely blown away with. We have Ingrid and Erika from Neuralign, and they are going to be talking about their journey. They're going to be talking about their experiences with dyslexia, with ADHD, the incredible work that they're doing with children to be able to help them thrive. I'm absolutely so passionate about the incredible work that they're doing. So guys, as always, we can't do this without yourself. So if you are watching this live, and please do drop a comment in there if you've got any questions or whatsoever, or if you've got a comment, then please do drop this in there. We would love you to get involved with this, but it is going to be an incredible show, and we are going to be talking about lots of different things. So if you want to get involved in this, then please do get involved. So as I mentioned before, not only are Neuralign going to be talking, Erika and Ingrid are going to be talking about us, their incredible company and their story. We're also sharing the fact that they're going to be sponsoring this episode, and we're absolutely delighted with this. So I want to give you a little bit of an understanding and my kind of short time with Neuralign and how I just got involved with the incredible work they're doing. So before we jump in and we bring our incredible guests in, I want to tell you that a little bit about Neuralign. It's an initiative program designed to transform how we support struggling readers. Built by people with lived experience and backed by research, it offers a fresh, effective approach to reading intervention that truly makes a difference. And what you'll see throughout this conversation it really does make a difference, and it is literally from the heart. So a huge thank you to Neuralign for not only coming on and sponsoring this, but most of all, words are great, but let me share it with you, a little video about them.
Neuralign leverages years of fieldwork and neuroscience research to unlock your child's reading success in a fun way. The Neuralign is a 40-hour program and includes cognitive therapy, reading exercises, and speed reading. What makes Neuralign computer game-based program unique is that the games train the auditory system, the visual system, and the motor system together, because that's what the brain needs for skilled and automatic reading. During the cognitive therapy part, we address the auditory processing speed in the form of acoustically modified sound to rewire the brain so that students can accurately hear the difference between the sounds within words. We work on visual processing skills and ocular motor skills development with translucent and opaque moving graphics. Neuralign also addresses the eye-hand coordination and motor skills. Our approach is multisensory because fluent reading requires multiple systems to work together with split-second timing. Reading exercises bond what has been corrected from the cognitive therapy program and reinforce timing, spelling, fluency, and comprehension skills. During the program, we give rewards to motivate students to persist on their way to success. We know it works because 99% of students improve reading by at least 2 grade levels in 40 hours.
It helps your mind to put the words and the sounds together, and somehow then it makes sense to you and it becomes easy, it becomes part of you.
Every child has the potential to learn. It is up to us to give children the tools they need in order to move forward in their lives.
So guys, that is just a snapshot of the incredible software, the company, and I want you now to meet the incredible, inspirational people behind this incredible company. And we want to just tell, I feel with any kind of organization, it's about the people behind it and the why. And that is why I'm very inspired to have Ingrid and Erika join us. So please sit back and welcome our incredible guest for today. Ingrid and Erika, a massive thank you and a welcome to Neurodiversity Stories. How are you both today?
Great, Darren. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
You're most welcome. I always feel that I can never really do it justice by when I try and explain the incredible work that you guys do and the impact that you're having on the world so far. And you're only kind of just a scratch away from the journey that you're on. I want to kind of just start off, if that's okay, if just to kind of just introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about, I guess, how you got involved, how you created this. So if created the business and how you kind of got involved with this, because it's a mother and daughter, very entrepreneurial, very skilled, and we can delve into your backstories and everything. Tell us kind of how it kind of evolved.
Sure. Who wants to start? I can start.
I'll let Erika start.
I'll start. Actually, I'll start for the same reason that our program started, and that really has to do with the fact that Ingrid is severely dyslexic and sometimes struggles a little bit with her words, and that's okay, as we all do. But I certainly don't mind stepping in. We each have our strengths. Ingrid is dyslexic. I have ADHD. We keep each other in check and help each other out and support each other through our strengths and our weaknesses. So that's how that goes. So we started. Ingrid is a lifelong educator. She has worked in education for forever, for years and years, and years, many decades. And throughout her whole life has always been a champion of the underdog. My youngest sister is also severely dyslexic, and it was when that journey started, right? So when my youngest sister, who's 8 years younger than me, so I was already a teenager at that point, was being diagnosed, Ingrid, the pieces sort of started to come together. And, of course, Ingrid, as often happens, recognized a lot of the same struggles that she had growing up, but without the same resources because,
that's right.
50 years ago, there was not the same kind of understanding and resources. So she decided, at that point, she decided to open up a reading center that focused specifically on teaching dyslexic kids how to read and the best way to go about that. But the question was always there about why. Why is it that some kids can pick up the skill and other kids, no matter what we seem to do with them, it's always an uphill battle. It's always a struggle. We know it's not an intelligence issue. That was observable firsthand. We also know that through research, but at the time it was definitely observable. A lot of these children were in fact probably above average intelligence. So we knew it wasn't that. So that question of why was always there. And I think that threw Ingrid into just research, got certified in every possible method and program out there that could possibly make some kind of a difference. Mm-hmm. And I, of course, worked alongside her at that time. It was my second job. My first job was in graphic design during the day. But in the evenings, that's where I was working with the kids, and I got certified in a lot of the same programs. And what we started to notice was that doing certain things in different combinations would unlock a lot of these students who seemed to be stuck. And that was really the start of it. Yeah.
I love the fact that you mentioned it's not based on intelligence. That's something that I've heard, from my own experience, time and time again, that you're deemed as unintelligent or stupid, or all these different terminologies that people use, and I think the confidence level on that, it stays with you, doesn't it?
All the time.
Absolutely. And I think, those years within the schooling, they fly by, really, to be perfectly honest. We always sort of look back on our school days and we think to ourselves, actually, in the grand scheme of things, it's quite, still quite a small amount of time within, your lifespan, but they are the most impactful, because a lot of the stuff that inherently has been said to you, or the way that you've been treated, will then just stem and go, throughout your kind of, the rest of your life, work life. I'm 48 and I still talk about my school as if it was a couple of weeks ago. Have you seen that in that kind of trauma side of it? If I use technology trauma, that experience, that it just is inherently stays with you.
It stays with you all the time. And Erika will know, because there's for me, my trigger really was when somebody said, what is your education background? I could feel the the blood just rush up.
Yeah, because you feel less than, because
Yes.
of course, in Ingrid's case in particular, on top of being dyslexic, she was a first generation Canadian who came from, immigrant parents, didn't grow up in the most financially secure area. And
Correct.
so there definitely weren't resources there.
No.
So what did Ingrid do? Ingrid from day one was an entrepreneur. She started businesses and she worked and she created work for herself and everyone around her.
Around me.
If you want work, you come find Ingrid. She will find you work. That has been a lifelong thing. But of course, the formal education couldn't happen. It's not even that it didn't happen.
The same way,
it just couldn't happen because the resources weren't there to support somebody who was severely dyslexic at that time. And so work happened instead. And despite that fact that formal education wasn't there, I mean, Ingrid does things that people with lots of degrees have not managed to do from a business standpoint, from a figuring things out standpoint. So really, but yeah, that sticks with you.
Yeah.
For myself, of course, I'm not dyslexic. I didn't struggle with reading, but with ADHD, we have our own version of that, which is that people say that we're lazy or we're scatterbrained or we're, and that stuck with me. I don't try hard enough or don't care about things, which couldn't be further from the truth. And so I get it. People label you and it's not who you really are, but you start to wonder if maybe they know you better than you do. And maybe there's, they're onto something and it's hard.
Yeah,
absolutely. The labeling thing is it can be, really, really detrimental. And again, it's I think it's kind of that, not being educated enough and when I say educated enough of the awareness of using terminology like ADHD, it's just hyper, or they're lazy, or they're scatterbrained, or things, and dyslexic, or they're this and they can't read and this. But it goes like the level of work that you have to put in to just sort of stay afloat sometimes.
Oh yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
The amount of this. And you touched on the thing of intelligence and educational side of it and CVs. I got kind of goosebumps when you're saying this, because it's such an emotive thing for me, because I left school with no qualifications because I wasn't allowed to sit any exams. Yet at 48 years of age now, if I wanted to work for an organization, they would ask for my CV and they would ask what my qualifications were in maths, science, humanities, all of these different things, and whether I'm got a degree or all of these different things. And I'm thinking, but so regardless of the experience and what you've been able to do, that is still a box that I would leave empty. And I do believe, and we work with a lot of organizations, and I'm not going to mention any, but I still feel that by leaving that box empty would stop me from being able to get a position. And that's just my thought patterns, but I don't know what you would think.
I definitely think so. And
agree.
One thing that I can say, what we've observed now, Ingrid has spent her life creating her own work, so that's not been a problem. I don't think she's ever had to submit a CV in her life.
I have.
Okay, maybe early on. But we face that when we are meeting with schools and school boards and academics to teach them, show them our program, and introduce them to it and talk about it. And now we're not getting that question as much, but early on we certainly did. Oh, well, what's your academic background? And poor Ingrid, I could just see the color
blood
drain from her face. And the life experience has to count for something. And so then, we sat down and we talked about it, and I said, okay, so maybe you don't have a master's in education. Maybe you don't have but let's look at all the programs that you've gone through and gotten certified in. You're Norton Gillingham certified provider. You were certified in Tomatis. You were certified in interactive metronome. You have a long list of credentials, even if they haven't come, and then the experience on top of it. So that has to count for something. So don't hide from it. Be honest about it. you know, we want better for this generation's kids. We don't want those barriers there, but those barriers were definitely there when you were growing up. So
absolutely,
you know, we can't go back in time.
What was, when you talk about the barriers, thank you so much for sharing that, and I completely, you know, relate to that 100%. And what were the kind of barriers? Did you leave school and then, and as you mentioned, did you think, you know, I'm going to try and go down the traditional routes of finding a job and applying things, CV side of it? And then what was the pinnacle point then to think, actually, you know, I'm gonna have to basically create my own you know, job, basically, you know, for that side of it? What was that like?
You know, I don't think I honestly gave it thought. Okay. I just did, and that was really who I was. You know, I mean, I can remember my first job when I was 5 years old. Like, just that's, you know, as Erika always says, I'm an entrepreneur at heart, which is, it's true. And it's the way my mind works. I always see, I see the solution for problems. That's really the best way to describe it. To this day, you know, I'll see something and I'm like, oh, if we did this or this or this or this, you know, and we joke all the time. And I know Erika mentioned, as soon as I say, oh, I have an idea,
we run, we scatter.
They run.
We just
because it usually means work for everybody. But
clearly I'm here, so I don't mind.
Yeah.
But Erika, you mentioned this, and I did hear a story of how Neuroline was kind of the brainchild of Neuraligne, and I think it was, if I'm wrong, please tell me, but it was sat around a dinner table with the family, yes. And then it was kind of, I think you mentioned, you know, that you do have an idea. Could you?
Yes.
Is that correct? Could you tell us?
That is exactly what happened. We were having a family dinner. We all came over to my parents' house for dinner. At that point, we weren't living at home anymore. Myself, my brother, and we're having a conversation. And yeah, Ingrid said, "I have an idea," and we never know what's going to come after that. We really don't. We didn't know what journey was coming next. We knew there was going to be something. And yeah, so we all sort of groaned, but, you know, we stuck around and to hear what the idea was going to be. Yeah. And that's where Ingrid said, look, we're in this center and we're doing all of these programs separately. The problem with that is that our goal is always to get kids back to being kids as quick as possible, back to in classroom with their peers, not being pulled out for individual resources, not being, you know, segregated in some kind of way, even with assistive technology, which is so important. It has a place. So I don't want that to be interpreted as I'm knocking it in any way. However, it does still single the child out, because, you know, if you have a scribe sitting next to you writing your answers on your exam, kids are going to notice. And one thing about kids is that they don't want to be different from their peers. Nobody wants to be that one who is needing the accommodations and is being pulled out, and that even if nobody says anything, and we know that kids can be cruel and they usually do say something, there's at least one or two that has something to say about it. Even if no one says something, it still makes you feel different. So our goal has always been get them back into class as quickly as possible. And that was the case with Ingrid's Center. And we noticed that when we did these things in combination, they would start being able to participate in class in a more typical way. And so that's where Ingrid said, okay, well, what if we just, you know, we're doing these programs that work on auditory processing, and we're doing these programs that work on, you know, the reading instruction aspect, you know, the multisensory reading instruction like Orton Gillingham. And we're doing, you know, we're doing these visual processing exercises, and we've got occupational therapy in there doing different things. And she said, what if we just threw everything in one spot and did it all at the same time? Like, why are we doing all of these things separately rather than just doing it all in one go? And so we started a conversation. Of course, I worked in the center, so I had some ideas of what programs we were using and what they were targeting. And with my background in graphic design, I had some thoughts on how we could turn some of those concepts of what we're trying to target into games. My brother, who is also a co-founder, you will never see him on a podcast in your life. Because as typical computer people, prefers to be on the other end of it. But he works in computers and in programming technology. So he was able to give us some ideas on how to put it all together from a tech standpoint. And we started, and we all ran with our ideas, and that's
here you are.
And here we are.
Here we are.
Global.
Yeah.
Global. We'll come back into, because you're in Canada at the moment, and obviously you're coming, now you're kind of be in the UK. You're in the UK, and obviously we're going to be meeting at TES in the sense of, and there's lots of kind of work and collaboration with Antigo and things. But I kind of just want to go back slightly when you mentioned about kind of separation and kind of how important is that to. Because I know for myself, I was never really kind of allowed to sit in mainstream education. I was kind of put in this thing called the unit, which was a porta cabin in the middle of the school playing field. And pretty much 5 years of my secondary school, so senior high school education, was just kind of colouring in dot to dot and things like this. And I always longed for that. How important do you feel that is? I mean, that's extreme. I completely understand that, when we're taking children out for, an hour's lesson and things. But when we get to that age and we're kind of in high school, or secondary school, you just kind of just want to fly under the radar and just kind of just fit in. That was my kind of thing. But there are so many other life skills that you are meant to be learning at that age, in the sense of friendship and all of the other understanding, not just the learning side of it. Do you feel that by maybe some form of separation within this side of it, that is hindering some of those other skills that we're meant to be learning at that age?
Here's the thing, is that a lot of times we have to make what the best decision is with the resources that we have. And right now, when they're pulling kids out of class for reading instruction, that is important because they do need to read. We just want a better way of going about it so that that's no longer necessary, exactly for what you're hinting at, right? First of all, as I touched upon before, there is a social aspect, there is the being singled out. Like you said, you'd prefer to fly under the radar, not be singled out as the one who can't read. But definitely they're missing social aspects, and they're also missing whatever class they're being pulled out of. If I were to go pull out my kids from school for an hour every day to play basketball or do something, they would look at me like I was crazy, because they're going to be missing something important in class. And at that point, they're choosing the reading because that really is important. But it would be better if they didn't have to be, right? It would be better if they didn't have to be pulled out.
Yeah. And I think it is that, and again, it stems into the confidence side of it as well, because again, if you're in a classroom environment and you're trying to understand exactly the nuances, everything that's going on, and trying to decode everything and trying to work, and then you then miss a certain lesson, and then you're playing catch up. If you're already playing catch up in that sense, then it's only going to increase that anxiety.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You be able to do that.
Yeah, we have so many students that once we get them reading that they'll say to us after, how come nobody taught us that? And it wasn't that nobody taught them that, it's that they couldn't absorb it at that time. So there's so much that they had missed, only because they're always in fight and flight, right? Like they're just trying to see what the next thing is, that trying to look at somebody else to understand what's going on, or so that's always something that we remind them, that actually you probably were taught, but you just couldn't take it in at that time. So and then missing other subjects because they're pulled out on top of it. So they're always playing catch up.
Yeah. And that's not even to talk of, the after school stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
How many hours these kids spend in tutoring or extra practice outside of school, when they could be playing with their friends or doing their homework or at an activity in a sport, doing something, like everyone else.
Yeah, I think of my youngest daughter, and that was exactly it. I decided that, I was going to do everything in my power so that she didn't have to go through the same thing that I did and not being able to read. And, but she did all day school, and then, you know, anywhere from 2 to 4 hours a day of tutoring after. And, you know, while everybody else was in sports or doing something else, you know, she was doing the same thing
just to keep up.
Just to keep up.
Yeah. And then you then get a label saying that you're lazy or you know not intelligent enough, and that's why I mentioned, you know, and you mentioned the amount of work just to try and you know keep on that. When you mentioned about that you just didn't want your daughter to experience what you went through, I can imagine that was a kind of an emotional thing, a massive emotional thing, because you obviously knew everything that you kind of went through and thought, I don't want anyone to go through this, especially not your daughter.
Oh, correct. It's because in my case, it was always hidden. I didn't want anybody to know, which I think that happens for a lot of people. It's the shame that you carry with it. And then I can remember so well when I decided that I was no longer going to be ashamed, and that I was going to start sticking up for and letting everybody know this is just a different brain structure and it has nothing to do with, you know, being dumb or stupid or things like that. And it's usually the first thing that I will talk to our students who come in. I sit them down and I say, listen, this is not your fault. Like, this is just the way your brain is, the way you function. And we're just going to, you know, we'll try and get you reading, because that's important. You have to be able to read, but you don't want to change the other things, because I love, you know, being inventive. I love trying to figure out all the problems. And, you know, I can remember the principal at the school that I was at, he would take for hours to try and get all the teachers in their classrooms and, you know, just that scheduling part. And after, you know, 4 or 5 hours, he'd come, he'd sit and he'd put it down on my desk and say, okay, Ingrid, do it. And I go, here you go. And it's done, you know. So, and he was always like, oh, but because I could see it.
Exactly. And you see the pattern and you think to yourself, that's the act that I can do. I just want to touch on the word that you mentioned. I find it quite emotional when you said you with the students that you come in and you, first of all, you say to them, it's not your fault.
Correct.
Like,
yeah.
Wow. Like,
it's because we've had so many students, especially the students who are adults or young, you know, older teenagers. I mean, I can, you know, who don't even want to walk in the door, but parents are sort of forcing them to come and crying in the car. I've taken kids out of the car who have been crying, you know. Sorry, now I'm going to get emotional. No. But yeah, you know.
But that's the, you know, that's the level we are at, and I guess, you know, this is the unspoken rule, isn't it? This is where you know, you mentioned, I'm going to now, you know, the incredible work that you're both doing is standing there and saying, actually, you know, I'm not ashamed of this. I'm going to start telling people, and in the power of both of you telling people, look what you've created, and look what, you know, how many people you can help with this. And I think it just takes, I use the word brave, and I do stick by that, to be honest, because it impacts so many parts of your life to be able to put your head above the parapet and say, actually, no matter what you may think of me, I'm going to do this because I want to give and I want to help. And I think that's really noble that you've done that within that side of it. Were for both of you, were there struggles, like for your own self, of thinking, actually, I'm going to start telling people more about this? And then you get to a stage, because I did that, you know, I got to a stage where I was kind of hiding, and then I went all in, you know. But what was that like for both of you?
Yeah, I think I pushed you a little bit on that front.
Probably did. Yes.
I think you know, I recognize that you were hiding it. And I think at one point I even said to you, you can't tell these kids that there's nothing wrong with it if you're not willing to admit yourself, you know, and I get it's scary, but, you know, start saying it, yeah, I'm dyslexic.
Yeah.
You know, I really struggle with this. This is really hard for me. And that's okay. In Ingrid's tutoring center, we had a big saying up on the wall that said, you know, reading is an
very important life
skill, but it's not a measure of intelligence. And I said, you have to start believing that for yourself, not just for your students, because I knew that she believed it for all of those students, but she didn't yet believe it for herself. Yeah, and I gave her a little bit of a push.
A what for? She gave me the what for.
We are internally grateful for doing that. Push metaphorically or softly.
Yeah.
You know, within this, how important is it to see a child thrive and really have the potential that you know that they have? And I think this is sometimes, you know, when like someone sees something in you when you don't see it yourself, like I get goosebumps just thinking about this again. But how important is that?
Oh, it's so important. I mean, the stories we could tell you, it was, you know, they've been incredible. And just seeing, you know, I can remember one child who came in and I love the little troublemakers. I just love them. But and he was trying to be so pesty and you know, we just continued. And when he finished our program or finished with us and the program, and he was reading beautifully. And I said to him, like, how do you feel now? And, you know, how did you feel when you came and how do you feel now? And he said, do you have a ladder? And I said, I don't, but we could pretend there's one. And he said, when I first came, I was under the ladder. And I'm like, oh, okay. And where are you now? He said, on top of the ladder. So it was like, oh, that's it, right? Those are the stories that keep us going.
Yeah. For myself, I see it firsthand with my youngest. My youngest daughter is dyslexic, and she came around at a very good time because we had just finished developing the junior program when we really noticed that there was a problem. And of course, you know, she's clever as a fox, like she's way too smart for her own good. And so her teachers kept saying, oh, don't worry, she's so smart, she'll be fine. And you know, I knew all the signs were there, and it's genetic. My husband is also dyslexic, so she's got it coming from both ends. And so I knew there was, you know, that we needed to do something about it. And so she was the first ever student who did our junior program. Yeah. And after doing the program, she started, you know, while we were reading stories together, she would start trying to point out words and sound them out. She never, ever would have. And if I had asked her to, she was not able to. So I was even doing more simple things, just asking her to tell me letters within the stories. She couldn't do that either consistently. And she started sounding out simple words. And so then we got some really simple books, and we would do where she'd read a word and I'd read a word and we'd go back and forth, but she was reading and it just started coming exactly the way that it was supposed to if she hadn't been dyslexic. Now she's still got all of the other wonderful qualities of dyslexia. She still has some struggles that come along with dyslexia, including auditory processing. I don't need to tell you how many times I have to repeat the same thing 12 times, not because she doesn't hear it, but because she's not processing, and she says what as soon as I'm done, and then she'll answer 5 seconds later. It's okay, we get each other. We understand what's going on. That's still there a little bit. But she can read, and she's a straight A student. And actually her job in school, because they have jobs at school that they're paid to do, and she is the class librarian.
Wow.
So they get tokens to spend in class, and that's her job, is class librarian.
So you created a real love for reading then?
Yes. Oh, she's always in a book. Always in a book.
Yeah. She reads continuously. Yeah.
Because if you Google dyslexia, it would say you can't read, or you hate reading, or sorry, not hate, but you dislike reading, or you're not able to read, or
dyslexics don't read for pleasure. That's really the best way to put it. Even if we get them reading now, we don't find that with our program, but let's say, the traditional tutoring way where you finally get them reading after many hours. They're still always struggling because
it's still hard.
It's hard reading.
It's hard. It's not pleasurable.
No.
And even if they do get to the point where they are reading fluently, it's usually exhausting at some point, right? It's overloading really for the brain, because the brain is not using efficient pathways for the task. And so it's exhausting. But also there's baggage that comes with it, right? So they have a negative association with reading, and that's more true the further along in their educational journey they go without some kind of real success.
Yeah.
Do you feel that people? So I went through in my entire school not really being able to read or write, and then at the age of 17, I think, 17, I left school, really kind of struggling. And people saying, how did I kind of learn to read? And to be honest, I can't pinpoint an exact time when I was able to kind of, or a special program, or all of these different things within this side of it. But I know that I work 10 times harder trying to decode things, and sometimes I can't read certain things, and sometimes I can. But I love the relationship of thinking of purchasing a book, and like my wife, she is an avid reader, and she'll just read a book, and sometimes she can do it in a day or two, and I would love to be in that situation, within this side of it.
Oh yeah.
But it's difficult.
And I know, Darren, it was the same. I didn't learn to read through school, and finally, like I said, at the age of 21, when I was actually pregnant with my first child, and I just had one of those moments that I needed to learn how to read, because I had to read to my child. As as a mother, they have to be able to read to their child, right? So I got all the Dr. Seuss books and just started. And my husband, actually, bless him, he really is the one who was my rock. And so we sat and we read, and at that time I worked for quite a good company, and I was office manager, and they thought I was a great worker because I brought all my work home. So every night I had a handful of stuff, and I got home and my husband sat there and read it with me, and I did all the answers and closed. So it was, we make do with
make do.
It's the behind the scenes, isn't it, of what you're doing. My love of books, I guess. I remember vividly, when I was a child, my mum would sit at the end of the bed, and she would read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. This was before it became a movie franchise.
Yeah.
So I would picture, what a lion looked like, and all the other bits and pieces. And I know what a lion looked like, sorry, but the kind of the characters and everything. And I always remember she would read, a chapter or whatever it was, a few pages, and then she would read the book. And then at the end of that book, she would then pick a different book. And I'd always say, "Can we just read Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe again?" And she said, "No, we're going to read a different book." So I always remember. I cannot tell you what other books my mum would read to me, but I always remember that. So once she read that book, we would then go back to The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Then she would read another book. Then we go back to The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And I was always fascinated. And I always remember as a child, really, some nights sort of grabbing the book and opening it and thinking, why? Because, I didn't know about dyslexia back then. And I was thinking, why can't I do this?
Yeah.
Why can't I do this? And I remember it was a real, when you say that you look at things and problems and you find solutions and things, I just couldn't find a solution of why I couldn't do what my mum was doing, basically, and do what everyone else was doing.
That's right.
And that was really tough to try and.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I do want to say for anyone out there who's listening, I always say read to your kids, and not for the same reason that a lot of other people, if you read to your kids, they'll be avid readers, because that's not true of a dyslexic person. I mean, it's always great to expand their vocabulary and their imagination, all of that. Read to your kids no matter how old they are.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I still read to my kids. They're 14 and 11 in a week, my younger one, you know, and I still read to them despite the fact that they can both read, because there's magic in books and there's magic in stories. And it's especially important if your child struggles to read and they can't do that on their own, because otherwise all of the work around reading is going to be hard. And that's where the baggage comes. They're not going to want to learn to read for pleasure because they're not going to have experienced the pleasure of reading, you know. And look, I'm an avid reader. I've got a book calling me in the other room right now that I can't wait to get back to. You know, I love reading, and I've always had that love, and I want to share that with my kids, whether they're struggling or not. But we'll often, you know, just get cozy under the blankets, all in my bed together, you know, heads out with the book, and you know, we just lie there and we'll read a chapter or two, and they can't, you know, we'll talk about what's going on, what we think is going to happen next. Whether they can read or not, you can still give them the magic of a book by reading with them. So your mom did a great job with that. And yeah, read to your kids with no expectations, just to enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah.
I love the way that you described that, and it was, you know, magical in that side of it, because, you know, and you don't normally hear that being spoken about when you talk about dyslexia or neurodivergent individuals or anything within this side of it. It's always deemed as you know, reading is something that you just, it's not, you know, stay in your lane. It's not for you. And I understand, as you mentioned as well, that, you know, the struggles within this side of it. But I think it is incredible to be able to create that experience, you know, especially for your family as well. I want to kind of get into kind of Neuralign now. So tell us a little bit about kind of your vision within this side of it. So you're in Canada at the moment, and you have a real strong connection with the UK in the sense that that you obviously, you know, coming across the UK, and I think you've partnered with an incredible organisation. Could you just tell us a little bit about that, if that's okay?
Sure. So yeah, as you mentioned, we've partnered with Aventito, a fantastic organization. We really couldn't ask for a better partner.
No, that's right.
They get us. They get what we're trying to do. They come at it from the same, you know, understanding of what dyslexia is and the importance of addressing it and servicing these children who are struggling as we do. So we really couldn't ask for a better partner. They already have lots and lots of contacts within the schools that are excited to learn more about the program. I'll be there in just under 2 weeks to, as you mentioned, for the test show. I'll be there to meet whoever wants to come and meet me. And I'm, you know, going to be touring some amazing schools. I cannot wait to go to Moon Hall. We're going to be going to Moon Hall and having a tour there. I've heard amazing things. We've met with them virtually. I absolutely love what they're doing there, so I can't wait to meet with them as well. And yeah, we're super excited about this UK partnership.
And we will put the details of you attending the TED show as well, so people can have the opportunity to meet up with yourself. And I know that we will be catching up and speaking as well on that side of it. With the connection to the UK, there's also something else, isn't there? The Charles Dickens.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about this, because when I first mentioned this, I was like, oh wow, you know, like
this was we loved doing this project. Yeah.
So we have a version of Neuralign that is themed to A Christmas Carol, and we open it up seasonally. So it's not always there, but we open it up. We'll be opening it up soon. It's a little bit early for Christmas, I feel, though the stores don't agree with me. But we will be opening it up soon and offering it through the holiday season. And we did that in conjunction with a Charles Dickens Heritage Foundation. And so it's actually Charles Dickens's great maybe one more great granddaughter, who Catherine Dickens, who did the voice recording for us. They were all on board with this. They were involved in the process, and you know, Charles Dickens himself was a philanthropist and a child's rights advocate. And so when they found out about this project and when we approached them for it, they couldn't wait to get involved in whatever way that they could, because they've carried that along to continue that mission many generations after he has passed on.
And then we do donate funds from there to the hospitals, to the children's hospitals. Yeah.
That's incredible. And your kind of relationship now within the UK, so you've got Canada, UK. I noticed that you're in other countries as well, Kenya, which I've done quite a lot of work in Kenya as well.
Kenya, South Africa, we're in the US, we're in Brazil, we're in Canada,
Australia,
mm-hmm. New Zealand. So we're doing it.
So globally, you're helping as many people as possible.
Correct.
That's been the goal.
Arabic as well.
And yes, we're also in Kuwait. So that's always been our goal. Our goal has been kids are kids no matter where they are, and these struggles exist everywhere. And our goal has always been, and right from the development of this program, that was part of why we wanted a computer-based, game-based, deliverable online, is because we want it to be as accessible as possible to as many people as possible, regardless of whether they are close to a provider, or whether they're, not exactly, as long as they can have some internet access and access to a computer, they can do the program. And we want it available to as many kids as possible, because we've seen the results firsthand. And we just want kids to be back in class and acting like kids.
And I think that is the wonderful side of it. And I think you touched on the fact of, kids not losing their creativity as well. And I guess if the mindset is that they're just struggling and they're kind of weighed down with all of these things that they're being told that they're not good at, or not being able to do something, to have a child come in that's, upset and not wanting to come in from the car, to then talking about, being at the bottom of the ladder to the top of the ladder, and helping, that's, like you said, you probably got hundreds of stories within this side of it, but and we're only scratching the surface onto your journey, really, of what we're going to be doing, and the legacy that you guys are, that you're leaving. But it what I love most about this, and this is why it kind of connects massively, is you've mentioned the why, and it's not just a case of just creating a company for the sake of creating a company. It's embedded in the why and the feelings that you've had, and that you just want every child to not feel those things. Am I right on that side of it?
Yeah, absolutely. We really just wanted to get down to the root of the issue, and
help as many children
kids as possible. We have such a good understanding now that we didn't have 20 years ago, 30 years ago, about what is going on. There's still lots to learn, but we have a better understanding about what's going on in the brain of dyslexic children. Yes. And really it is a neurotype. I fully believe in that neurodiversity and diversity in general makes us richer as a society, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't come with struggles. And this neurotype comes up with struggles. There is a history of reading. We did not evolve to read as humans. We hijacked other parts of our brain to try to do that task. Dyslexic people hijack inefficient pathways to make that task happen. So it's very hard. So we know what's going on in the brain of a dyslexic person when they're trying to read, and what's not going on in the brain of a dyslexic person when they're trying to read. And we also have a lot more knowledge now about neuroplasticity and about how to stimulate certain areas of the brain and what happens in the brain when you do that. I mean, 15, 20 years ago, we would talk to people and they would say, well, no, when you hit a certain point, your brain is no longer plastic.
That's right.
Well, we know now that that's not true. That has been disproven. And now it's common knowledge that, yes, the brain continues to be plastic throughout your life. And there are things that you can do. And so we just wanted to take all of that knowledge, and I'm oversimplifying it. There's a lot going on in this program. It is complex. It is quite complex, and you know, we did rope in some professionals as we were building it. Yes. You know, Ingrid had lots of colleagues that she was telling she was doing development, and they had ideas they wanted to include and make sure we were, you know, targeting specific things, and then we would figure out how we could do that. But really, that's what it is. With all of this knowledge that we have now, we wanted to put it all together and just do something about it. You know, it's time to do something different. You know, there are some great reading instruction programs out there, and we're not in the business of really saying which ones are better than others. There's lots of good options there. I mean, we don't need to get into that debate. Don't do anything involving 3Qing, but that's all. Anything else, you know, multisensory, structured literacy, science of reading-based reading instruction, very, very important. But what people don't seem to talk about is that all of these reading instruction programs were developed for neurotypical readers. So in these conversations that we're having about which programs are best to teach our kids, those are important conversations, but dyslexic readers are still being left out of those conversations. So yes, these are fantastic reading instruction programs. They're really important. That conversation needs to happen. But what about the kids that are still struggling? And anybody who works with dyslexic children will know that you can take the best structured literacy program out there and work with kids, and it is still going to be hard work for all of them if they're dyslexic. And some of them will never get it. And that is, no one wants to say that, but it's the truth. Yeah. Not that they won't improve, but they'll never read for pleasure. Readers. They're always going to struggle with comprehension. Yeah. It's always going to be exhausting. Because you have to reread and reread. Yeah. The correct neural pathways. Their working memory is overloaded because it's focusing so heavily on decoding. Well, you're not supposed to decode forever. Decoding is an early reading skill. At some point, that's got to be automatized. But dyslexic students decode forever. It's exhausting, you know. So we just that's what we wanted to fix. Yeah. That's what we wanted to fix, and that's what we did. It's working.
Well, Ingrid and Erika, you are inspirational. And whether you take self-praise, I think you should. You have created something along with your brother and the incredible people that are around, a real family business. And it's inspiring to watch. And I can't wait to see the incredible work that you'll do within the UK. The UK is an incredible place, you know, to be able to help, and the children that you'll be able to help within this side of it. I will put all the links to everything so people, you can kind of connect with you guys, and obviously connect with Neuroline and find everything else. We will be putting this in the comment section within this side of it. But I just want to take this opportunity to thank you both for your time today. There's been some really lovely comments on the comment section. People saying that they wish they had teachers like yourself. That's nice. You know, two of the most incredible ladies I've ever had the pleasure of meeting. It says LinkedIn user, but generally there's, I think maybe
that might be my husband who wrote that. No,
but rest assured, some really, really lovely comments within this side of it, and keep the comments coming underneath. And if there's any questions, then we will kind of have a look to be able to kind of be able to do those. But thank you so much for both of you for coming on to the Neurodiversity Stories. I hope you've enjoyed it.
We have, Darren. Thank you for hosting us.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we will speak to you again very soon, and maybe later on have you back on the stories to hear about how you know, maybe a different country you're going to, or the incredible work that you're doing with.
Yes, we'd love to.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, and we will see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So guys, that was the incredible Ingrid and Erika who have joined us today. Thank you so much as always for all of your help and your support. And we will be back very soon for another Neurodiversity Stories.